everybody, welcome to Indie Twin Cities, a show celebrating indie film and TV makers here in the Twin Cities.
I'm Anika Reitman.
And I'm Denise Cabanella.
And we're here at the famous St. Anthony Main Theater where the 2012 Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival took place.
In fact, this is where Memorial Day, directed by Sam Fischer and starring James Cromwell, premiered. We had a great chat with Sam Fischer. Let's take a look. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about the synopsis of Memorial Day?
It's a story of a young boy that discovers his grandfather's footlocker from World War II, and he asks his grandfather to tell him the stories behind the contents of this footlocker. It's Memorial Day, and he says, "It's Memorial Day, what am I supposed to remember?" And they make an agreement that the grandfather will tell him the story behind any three of the items that he picks. Now, the juxtaposition is that the boy grows up and becomes a Minnesota National Guard and experiences very similar things to what his grandfather did in the war.
I'm curious actually what your film influences are. What maybe your favorite films or what influenced you to make Memorial Day specifically? Well,
Memorial Day, the concept, the story was brought to me by a friend of mine, Jeff Traxler. I had worked with Jeff on what he has at his, he owns a hunting preserve in La Center, Minnesota, and every year he does a living military history day. And he asked me to come down and film it, and we filmed it, and I treated it to look like Saving Private Ryan. When I showed him the footage, he said, "Well, what happens if we scripted this?" And I said, "Well, it's what we do." So, and he did. And so his friend found this footlocker in this house that was abandoned and was being torn down with no history or no stories behind all this stuff that was in this footlocker from World War II. And so that's where we came up with the idea. I met John through another actress here in town, Emily Frattenberg, and because we were talking about this story, and I needed a grandfather, and I needed a younger version of the grandfather, and I was contemplating, do we do this with makeup? Do we, who we're gonna get? And we were reaching out, I was reaching out to like Robert Duvall and some other, one really good heavy hitter for the film.
Yeah.
And then I was introduced to John, and John and I went out for dinner. I gave him the script, and a few days later I was on the phone with James, who really enjoyed the script and said he'd be willing to be a part of this project.
Will you continue to make this available to veterans groups?
We've gotten a lot of positive response from the military. I mean, we screened it up at Camp Ripley, and they gave us a standing ovation. And that's the best, that's the best you can ask for as a director. From the guys that we portrayed in the movie saying you did it well. I put the actors, World War II actors, and the Iraq soldiers through a boot camp for a weekend. And they got to learn how to handle weapons and move together as a group. And then I had technical directors from the World War II side of things. I had two technical directors there to making sure we were doing everything correctly like they did. I mean, even the LA Department of Public Affairs for the military, Lieutenant Colonel Clearwater out there said it was the most technically written script he'd read in 20 years. We made Minnesota look like Iraq.
And
Ramadi,
it really was wonderful.
They said we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
The general from the Army that flew in said, "How the heck are you guys going to do this?" And then they flew into our location in a Chinook helicopter, looked around at the quarry and went, "All right, I get it." And really my goal of being in Minnesota is to try to bring the film industry back the way it was in the late 80s and early 90s here. I mean, it was a very booming town. We had a very strong film board. We had, a lot of people working. And I think the potential is here. The crew is here. The talent is here. The actors are here. Our film, we only brought in 2 actors from out of state, John Cromwell and Jonathan Bennett. Everybody else was local. And to make the movie is one thing. That was miraculous. For all the 8 different time periods and, 6 different battle scenes that we had and all the moving parts. And, I'm looking at this script going, how am I ever going to, make this cohesive on the screen? And so getting through that and actually making it a good story was one challenge, and then getting it sold is another miracle in itself in this industry. So we're thankful, and we know it's going to do well. So
we're definitely behind you.
Thanks. It's kind of nice, you saw the marquee. Somebody sent me a photo of the marquee, and there's the Avengers and the Hunger Games and all the the big blockbusters. And there's Memorial Day, as it should be.
Thank you, Sam. That was great.
Pick up Memorial Day on Memorial Day weekend from any national major distributor.
And keep watch for Indie Twin Cities, the best coverage for indie TV and film. I'm Anika.
And I'm Denise. See you next time.